Today we're going to be talking about the Bootstrap 3 framework and getting started with Bootstrap. Bootstrap is a CSS, HTML, and JavaScript library. It's got a lot of pre-built classes and pre-built jQuery functions. If you don't have at least a basic working knowledge of JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, you'll want to stop the video and go back and brush up on those three things, as Bootstrap uses all three of them, and you'll need to at least have a fundamental knowledge of those things in order to use Bootstrap. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is go to the Bootstrap website and download Bootstrap, and that's getbootstrap.com. And it's right here, nice and easy to download. Now, as of the recording of this video, the most current version is 3.3.4, as you can see there. And this page here just gives you a little bit of what Bootstrap is. It is built on the Sass and less preprocessors. You don't have to have those preprocessors. That's for the ultimate level of control if you want to use those things. But in order to use those things, you'll have to install Bootstrap using Grunt and Node.js. Now, that's a little more technical than what we want to do in this video. I will cover it in a future video, but today we'll just be doing the real basic install, and there's two different ways to do that, and I'll be showing you those. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do, obviously, is download Bootstrap, so go ahead and just click that button. I've already done that, so you don't have to watch me do that. It is going to download a zip file. And you'll just want to extract that zip file into a folder that's nice and easy to find. I have it right here on my desktop. So once you've done that, go ahead and open your code editor. I'm using Adobe Brackets. This is built by the same people that built Dreamweaver and Flash Pro and all of those, Illustrator and Photoshop. But this is a free and open source text editor, which is one reason I really like it a lot. It's got a ton of extensions. It's a really great program. But use whatever it is that you're comfortable with, and go ahead and just navigate. I've already navigated to open that file, and we'll just take a quick look at what we have inside. So Bootstrap comes with three folders: CSS, fonts, and JS. And in the CSS, we have bootstrap.css. This is our basic CSS. It's got our master reset up here, as you can see, and then it's got a couple other widths, heights, box sizing, margins, a few fonts and colors, things of that nature, the kind of basic things. And then we have the Bootstrap theme.css. This has more colors, defines things like lists and buttons and pop-up boxes and drop-down menus and things like that. Next, we have the Bootstrap theme.css.map, and a .map file connects the preprocessor for less or Sass with the actual CSS file. So if you're not installing Bootstrap using Grunt and Node.js, you're actually not going to need the .map files. So we'll be probably just getting rid of those. Here we have the Bootstrap theme minified version, as well as the bootstrap.min.css. Now, these are the minified versions of these two here. These are nice and readable and easy on the eyes, and we can kind of see what's going on. And in the minified version, really all it's done is eliminated all of the white space, or most of the white space rather. That allows the browser to read it a lot faster and puts less of a load on your server. So as your site gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you don't have to worry about the server load that these files are delivering and slowing you down. Next, we have the fonts folder, and Bootstrap uses glyphicons. If you're not familiar with glyphicons, you can head on over to the website. I'll put a link down in the description for that, and you can see all the glyphicons there, or at the Get Bootstrap website, and I'll show you what that looks like here in just a little bit. Next, we have the JS folder, and this is going to hold our JavaScript. There's three files in here. There's the bootstrap.js. This is the basic jQuery behind Bootstrap. If you're not familiar with jQuery or JavaScript, you'll want to get at least basically a basic working knowledge of these things, as it is kind of important as you're working with it. And then we have the minified version here, and this one is the npm.js, and that's actually used when you're installing it with the Grunt installer on the Node.js platform. We won't be using that today. Like I said before, it's a bit too technical for what it is we're trying to do here in a beginner type video. So now that we have all three of these folders, we can start building ourselves a website. And so what we'll do is we'll just open up a plain old empty file here. And there are, now Bootstrap does have on the website a few starter templates that you can use with different layouts and sticky footers and sticky headers and things like that. So really what I'll be doing is just emulating one of those starter files so that we can just kind of walk through it line by line and see what everything does. So now that we have one of those open, of course we'll want to start with our doc type declaration. That's going to be important, obviously, and we'll be declaring the HTML5 doc type. And for good SEO purposes, we'll want to put in the language that we're in. Obviously I am in English, and the code for that there is EN. And I went ahead and threw in our opening head tag there as well. Just a few other kind of housekeeping tags that we need in there, a few meta tags and our title tag and things of that nature. So we'll go ahead and throw those in real fast. And we've got the character set. That's the American character set, so that the server knows how to deal with things like commas and question marks and things of that nature. We've got the viewport declaration, starts at a scale of 1.0, and that's just a regular viewport. Next we have the description. For SEO purposes, we'll leave that blank, but that's definitely something that you're going to want to fill out. The description is what Google displays when somebody pulls up your website in the Google search results. Same thing for the author. We're going to leave that blank for now, but that would be your Google authorship. Now we do have a title here, starter template for Bootstrap 3.3.4. Next, we've got our shortcut icon. And the shortcut icon is what, when somebody favorites your website, this is the icon that's going to be in their favorites bar. So that's kind of important to fill out so that you have control over what people see. Now, like I said before, we've got two different ways we could use our files. If you're like me, then you like to keep it local. And so what we'll do is we'll just need to link to those, link to our style sheets. Specifically, so we'll go ahead and do and put that in. Let me go ahead and save this real quick as an HTML file so that I start getting my my code hints, and Adobe brackets can start color coding for me and all of that fun stuff. So we'll put in the href. Whoops, helps if I put in the equals tag. Let's go ahead and let's try this again. Alright, and so for our style sheet, this is going to be obviously in our CSS, and we're going to need both the Bootstrap theme.css and the bootstrap.css. So we'll go ahead and put that in, and in our next one we'll put that in as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that whatever style sheet you put at the bottom of your list of style sheets is really going to take precedence when it comes to conflicts and when it sees multiple classes with different calls and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind as you're troubleshooting through there. Now the starter template that comes on Bootstrap has this kind of built-in style because it's using a sticky header. It's got to separate some of the design from that. So we'll go ahead and just throw that in. And then, of course, if somebody's using Internet Explorer 8 or below, we've got our hack here. We've got to put in our shims so that Internet Explorer recognizes our jQuery and some of our more advanced CSS3 calls. Now, that's it for the head document, or the head portion of our document. And you may be thinking to yourself, Alan, we're missing a few things. What about the JavaScript and the jQuery? Well, we'll get to that in just a minute. That's one thing that kind of sets Bootstrap apart. at least it was one thing that set it apart when I very first started using it, and that is that Bootstrap actually puts all of that stuff at the very bottom. So for the starter document, actually comes with a little navigation bar, and we'll go ahead and just throw that nav bar in there, and you'll see, hopefully you'll recognize some of the HTML5 declarations. Instead of using a div, it actually uses the nav. And then you see we've got these built-in classes here, and it's calling multiple classes. That's why you see it this way. So with a nav bar, it always starts with nav bar, and that gives you your basic styling. And then from there, you're going to want to add additional classes and give it its role of navigation. Then once we get down, another thing that sort of sets Bootstrap apart is its use of responsive design, and that starts with a container. You must start with a container in Bootstrap. Keeps all of the content centered, and it helps with the responsive framework and all of that. I like to put some white space in between my divs and all of that stuff. So we've got that, and then like I said before, one thing that sort of sets Bootstrap apart from some of the other ones is its use, or is that it uses its JavaScript. It calls it at the very bottom. So let's go ahead and bring in those scripts now, and we'll do that using our script tag, and then of course src, and that goes. Those are in the JS file, and we'll need Bootstrap and Bootstrap min, or rather just the Bootstrap, and then for our production, we'll use the minified file, but or rather for production, we'll use the full file, and then it once it goes out to the world and we upload it to our server, we'll change that over to the minified file. So that's one way we get it started, and if we save that, we can just go ahead and pull it up in the browser and preview it in the browser, and you can see what it looks like. And there it is. There's our hello world, and now you can start your own project with Bootstrap. And this plugin is a fork from HTML Skeleton, and if you click on that, it'll take you to GitHub and show you that. Now this one has a sticky header. That means that this is going to stick to the top even as we scroll up and down with our content. So that's the first kind of sort of beginner way. That's the first if you have all the files on your local machine. That's the way I like to do it. I've actually had, here you can see we have the use of a couple of CDNs delivering our HTML5 shim and our respond JavaScript, which helps the browser read the size of the nav of the viewport and tells Bootstrap how big the screen is, and then it can respond accordingly. Now, I've actually had these CDNs go down on me before, and I was using CDNs pretty faithfully, and one of the CDNs got hacked, and it was taken down, and I lost my entire website for about 2 hours until I realized what had happened and was able to fix it. But if you want to use the CDNs, lower the load on your server, you absolutely can do that, and you will do that by picking up the link from Max CDN. So as you can see, it's https ://maxcdn.bootstrapcdn.com, and that gives us the minified versions of the two. And then of course you can work in with the CSS and the JavaScript here, but you'll just need to make sure that you link to that. Really only use the CDNs if you don't intend to make any changes to the JavaScript or the jQuery or the CSS, and you intend to use it just kind of the way it comes out of the box. But if you're going to be making any changes to it, then using the CDN isn't going to do you much good, because any changes you make will not be displayed in the browser. But we've switched everything over to the CDNs, and if we preview it real quick, then we can see that we actually have the same exact website. It didn't really load any faster, at least that we'll notice, because it's so small right now. But as the website gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, especially if you're using an e-commerce website and you've got a couple dozen or 100 products, you're definitely going to see a change in how quickly it loads by using the CDNs. So it's really up to you how you want to proceed with doing that. So that's how you get started with Bootstrap. That's how we make our first document. We'll start moving through Bootstrap 3 a little bit more in this series, and I'll show you columns and some of the different typography and things like that. Thanks for joining us, guys. I do appreciate you being here. Don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out a lot. This is Alan from Revolution Digital Studios, and thanks for coming.